Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Hello Good Game, and today we have another special interview. Today we're going to sit down with John C. Ramos, and I believe he's a military man. We're going to have to wait and find out more. So welcome to the show, John. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am 35 years old. I was born in '84. I live originally from Indiana. I usually say Chicagoland area because if you say Indiana, no one really knows where that is. So I currently live in New York, and yeah, I'm military, and I'm set to deploy here very soon. So,
Where are you headed off to?
Afghanistan for the third time. So,
Third time. How long have you been taking tours like that?
I started originally in 2004. In August 2004 is when I enlisted. I enlisted as reservist, and then I went active duty roughly around 2008. My first deployment was in 2005, and then 2009, 2012, 2017, and then now we're in 2019 and 2020.
Woof. So how long do you ship out for at a time?
This time will be 9 months. Beforehand, it was a year. Not every deployment is the same, though, so.
Woof. Quite a while.
Yeah.
Family's going to miss you.
Yes.
And then while you're over there, what kind of stuff are you doing?
This time I am more of an oversight organizational leader as opposed to being I repair radios. That's my primary job.
Mm-hmm.
But each deployment is different. For example, in my first one, I didn't do my actual job. Like I repaired electronics, but I didn't do, tactical radio repair. So I did more of a strategic psychological operations as opposed to my primary job. And then this time I am actually going to be doing, as I said, organizational leadership, where I ensure that everyone around me and in my shop is doing their job. So I don't technically do repair radios, but my guys will.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Nice. We'll step away from that. That's pretty serious. How long have you been playing Magic?
I've been playing Magic since 1995 or 96. Whenever the Dark was right around the time it was released, give or take. And I've been off and on since then.
And playing pretty consistently, though?
Not well. So when I first started, I was, and then right around the time about, I wasn't too active during Urza, like the Urza's blocks and stuff like that. I was really heavy in the Odyssey standard, and then Onslaught. Right around there is when I was really, really heavily into it. And then right around the time that was the Skull Clamp era, was right around the time that I actually joined the Army. So, and then afterwards, like Army basically just took me to a position where Magic had to take a back seat. And then I stayed with it, like monitoring it and staying close to the community that I was a part of, but I never really actually like played a lot. I still had all my cards at the time, but I didn't really play a lot. I just kept along with the community. So as everyone says, you don't really quit, you just take a break. Mine was after or before like the Kamigawa block, and then all the way till roughly about now is when I actually started caring about it again.
Mm-hmm. And so all previous paper experience, or were you into MTG online as well?
Actually, Mitgo, so my experience with Mitgo is I heard about it, and I basically said that Mitgo was a joke at the time and that no one seriously would want to spend all their money on paper and then spend all their money on digital cards when they have no value.
Yeah.
So I was still young then, so I didn't do that. And my dad still played a lot. So we basically were like, well, we're buying paper cards. We're not doing that online stuff. So what happens when you don't want to play anymore? How do you get rid of them? Sure, you can kind of like have your accounts and stuff, but we didn't think it was a big deal back then, how dumb we were. Like it's a big deal now. And Arena basically tanked a lot of prices. So
Yeah, but especially for me, like I live in a rural area and I have zero like paper community. It's an hour and a half to my nearest Friday night or game source. So I am blessed by Arena. So I am sorry about the tanking prices and the communities kind of tapering off with paper, but we're gonna make it better. I promise.
Well, I don't play. Well, I don't have any paper cards anymore. So
Okay. Yeah.
my parents and my family do. They like kept all their old stuff that we used to have.
Oh, I'd be worth
So
something
yeah,
one day, I'm sure.
yeah.
So you're playing Arena, correct? Full time? And you're
Yes, I am. Well, not full time. I do. Yeah. Well, I play Arena and stream part time. Obviously, hiatus for the next 9 months, but once I get back, it'll be a full-fledged online on Mtg for the Eternal formats and Arena for standard and drafting. So,
Oh, cool. So you're gonna jump in and play some Magic Online too. That's really cool. What?
yeah, when I started, I don't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's okay.
I started with Arena, and the streaming thing was kind of like, I'm gonna try it out. It's a hobby. I'm already playing online a lot anyways, and I have, even though my rig is really old, it still can handle both streaming and playing Arena, because Arena doesn't take that much power or dedicated memory to run. And so I said, well, I'm just gonna do it and just have, I plan on doing this anyway, like all the online content creating and all that stuff. And then I thought it was easy because I watched everybody else do it. So I was like, well, I've been playing for so long that I want to hand it off to the next generation of players if that ever was the case. Obviously, the way my life has gone, which half of it is my fault, that I didn't, get into the pro scene, which is what I was trying to do. But Army basically cut in and real life happened, and it was more important to make sure that I wasn't starving as opposed to I'm going to play Magic and try to make it and live on scraps. And my parents were big into, you got to have a fallback plan based off their personal experiences. So basically Magic, and I was a big, huge chess player back then too. So I had to throw all that stuff in the back seat. And then, Army came along. Couldn't find a real job after I came back from my first deployment. I was still reservist at the time. So I was like, well, I'll just do active and see where it goes. 13 and a half years later, here I am. I got 6.5 years left till I retire, and then try to get my online presence in the Magic community and the gaming community to get up. And hopefully I have enough to where I can start doing this full time when I retire, which is 6 or 7 years from now.
You're looking pretty young for retirement, bud.
Yeah, I'm not. I said I'm only 35, and when I retire, I'll be 42. So it's not gonna be that much. And if nothing else, I'll just deliver people's mail, or I don't want to go into doing
like a retirement job.
Oh no! I don't like. So everyone talks about how they're gonna. Man, when I retire, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get another job. I'm gonna double dip. I'm gonna do all this, bro. I've been doing this job, my Army job, and being a leader for so long, for 8 to 10 years now. Once I'm finished, that'll be 15 to 20 years of leading the nation's most valuable resource. And while everyone thinks it's the greatest job in the world, it is the most stressful.
Oh, I bet.
And I do not want to be in charge of a single thing once I'm done. I don't want to be in charge. Like, it'll be great the moment that I retire, and I'm gonna say, man, did anybody get drunk over the weekend?
Yeah,
did
I don't care.
Anybody get in trouble? I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that, because I guarantee you, when I take another job somewhere, like if I'm in a management position or whatnot, the first thing I'm going to think of is, man, are all my employees, are they good? Am I going to call them? Yeah, I can't do that anymore. I'm not doing that. So I would rather do this and be in charge of myself and just my family than doing it full time somewhere else. So that's what I'm trying to do now.
Cool. That's awesome. What's the highest you've been ranked in MTG?
On Arena, the highest I was ranked was about 970 on Mythic. That was last season. I didn't keep that because I cared more about testing brews and testing what works and what doesn't. And when you do that, your win rate goes down.
Big time.
Now, yeah. And I didn't think that I was going to have time to hit the MCQ over, I thought it was this weekend, but and obviously the Mythic Championship 5 is this weekend. And then the MCQ for Arena is the weekend after.
Yeah.
But either way, I didn't think I was going to have time to test or play it. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to care about what my rank is. So I just kept playing and testing. And I didn't queue for the MCQ, but even if I did, I wasn't going to be able to play in it anyway. So
yeah, well, that's all right. We'll get you there eventually.
Yes.
What's your favorite card right now?
My favorite card. So at first, it was Golos and Field. Now, mind you, this was before rotation. So I don't know if I have a favorite card in Standard currently because I'm playing so many different decks right now.
Yeah, we can go outside of Standard. We'll go anywhere.
Oh, well, my favorite card of all time, or at least the top 5, is Spellweaver Helix from the Mirrodin Onslaught days. I brewed up a deck back then. It was blue-green, built around Spellweaver Helix. For those who don't know, Spellweaver Helix is a 3 converted mana cost artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you target 2 sorceries, I think it's 2 sorceries from your graveyard. And anytime that you cast either one, you get the other. So, for example, back then, I would use Serum Visions and or Rampant Growth, and I would either get Concentrate and or Tendrils of Agony. Now, the way the card reads is when you cast the spell, you copy the card and you get the spell. It doesn't count towards your storm count, but it counts as casting a spell. So it's as if you're casting both cards at the same time, but you're only casting one, but you get 2. So I would cast Serum Visions, and I would get either Concentrate or Rampant Growth. And then Rampant Growth would trigger and then cast the other spell off of the other Helix, which was either Tendrils or whatnot. So what I would do is I would combo off on turn 3 or 4, either bounce all of your permanents or kill you with Tendrils. And then, it was my favorite F&M deck at the time.
Yeah. What's your current go-to deck right now for ranked?
So for ranked right now, it's either Golos or Gruul Aggro with Embercleave. I don't want anything to do with Oko. I don't want anything to do with Wicked Wolf. I don't want anything to do with the blue-green. The blue-green mid-range, I think Oko is busted. And I don't like playing with it. The +1 should be a -1. We can get on that later, but
yeah. Cool. And then how were you first introduced into Magic?
Oh boy. So when I was about, as I said, when I started playing it around the dark or whatnot, I was about, I want to say 9 or 10. I don't remember the age I was, but my dad used to be big into toys. He used to be a toy collector. He used to have all the old G.I. Joes from the 60s and 70s. Back then, he was he took care of all of his stuff. So all the old toys that he used to have were all boxed, and that's how meticulous he was. He has his own room in the basement. Well, they don't own the house anymore, but they used to have this own room in his own basement where it was all filled with all toys, and then he had another room under the house where he kept all that other stuff. Well, we were at a toy show one day, and my stepmother's brother, or my step uncle, was a huge Magic player, but I didn't know that at the time. He was in a tournament at the same venue. So when my dad wasn't selling anything or whatnot, we would go and like watch him play, I guess. And I saw the art on the cards, and the art I thought was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's how I got introduced to it. And like, I'll never forget watching him play in the final. I think it was the finals of the tournament at the time. Back then there was no Swiss. It was, you're in a bracket, single elimination, you either win or you don't. And he got beat up by Ali from Cairo. So that still is one of my top 10 or top 5 favorite cards of all time. Is not just watching my stepmom go get beat by this card.
Yeah,
Ali
that's
from Cairo
cool.
is I want to say it's 1 red and 1 colorless, and maybe 1 red. I think it's 1 red and 1 colorless. It's a 0-1. His creature type is Ali from Cairo. It's not, anything else but that.
Mm-hmm.
And then any damage that will reduce you to 0 is reduced to 1, essentially.
Nice. I find that almost doesn't work. Anyways, if you're to that point, you're going to lose. But it is a cool effect. What's your favorite color or combination of colors?
So it has changed over the years, because when I first started, it was all about, red, green, lightning bolts and bloodlust and giant growths and curd apes and all that. Today is much different. They always called me the blue player, because that used to be what I was. I was always playing. So, for example, in the Odyssey Onslaught blocks, I was playing either Tog or Cunning Wake. If I was in, obviously, I told you about the Helix deck. That was blue-green. But I don't play my favorite all-time standard format was the Time Spiral first Ravnica block. And all I played was either Tron lands, or it was either blue-red Tron, blue-green Tron, or when the Tron lands rotated, I was playing Solar Flare. So everything was all about blue cards. Today is all about big mana decks. So if it's big mana ramping and getting to play this big giant creature, a big giant spell, which I guess technically the Golos field deck would be this. It does play blue, but I'm not about it's not all about control anymore. The only thing I won't touch is aggro.
Oh, really?
I mean, I do play it, but I'm not the greatest at it. And sometimes Gruul aggro is the only, and I guess is a tempo, but that's not an aggro deck. It's a tempo deck. But Gruul aggro would be the only deck that has been working for me outside of any other deck that's not aggro.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you like MTG, and how do you like Arena so far, or how does it compare to standard Magic?
So the reason MTG is just when it was first created, or when it first started, it was way before its time. And there were many other TCGs or CCGs, or what they want to classify it as. But back then it was a trading card game. That's what it was marketed as. But back then you had Magic, you had Star Wars, you had you had L5R, Legend of the Five Rings. You had all these cards. And if you talk about them now, but no one really knows it, you can Google this and tell, and many of the old pros used to play those games as well, L5R and stuff like that. But the reason why I like MTG so much is because it's tied to the art, and everything around it is all about the cards. So if you want to know where you're at in the story, you look at what the cards are. So if you don't know anything about lore, just go look at, the last couple of sets, mainly the War of the Spark set. The cards, that set, even if it's OP, like a lot of the walkers are overpowered, the cards really explain what the story was all about. The first few spoiler cards that you get is, man, Bolas is about to, wreak havoc on everyone. Then at the very end of the spoiler season, you're like, man, Bolas got destroyed, and everybody's all rejoicing, played right celebration. But initially you got Ravnica at war. And the cards explain everything, and the art is fantastic.
Yeah.
So how do I like Arena so far? Arena gives me what I don't get out of Magic anymore. So I have a family. I am mid-career, almost in my twilight years of the career, and I don't have as much time as your 18 to 24-year-old, those that play Magic when they're in their teens or in their early 20s. So I don't have that type of time anymore. Arena allows me to supplement that, and it's cheap. I can play I only had to spend, $100 to $200, or maybe $400.
to
I
max
spent a
your
lot.
setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have to spend a lot. And back before Arena, where everyone's playing Mtg or MTGO, I was on Xmage. That's how cheap I was, because I didn't get to go and play on paper,
Yeah.
because I just didn't either have the cards or it's more in line of that I didn't have the time, because I can't just be like, man, I'm just going to take a whole weekend and just go play Magic. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's nice. You like, there's no travel. You can just get a couple hours in when you have it, right?
And more to that, Arena allows you to have tournaments also. I can literally wake up in the morning, get a cup of coffee, although I don't drink coffee, so either energy or water or whatever, have my breakfast in front of me with my sleepwear on, my pajamas, and I can play and stream it and everything else. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I don't have to leave so if I wanted to do SCG events or Grand Prix, Magic Fest, the Pro Tour, Mythic Championships, or whatever, side events, what have you, I don't have to do that anymore. I can just leave. I can just be here in my house on my computer, and I can stream it and I can play it. And I'm hanging out with everyone, and I can play on Arena. Arena allows me, like, if Arena didn't exist, I definitely would not even own any paper cards, and I would not be playing as much as I do now. Arena allows that to happen.
Sadly, that's probably the exact same for me. Like, it's great. Just a real life source for the Magic community, especially for us who have busy schedules or disconnected from the live scene, right?
That's correct.
So what changes would you like to see made to Arena?
Well, first they need to fix the memory leak problem. That's number one. The biggest gripe that I had when I started in the beta was obviously the fifth card problem. Once they fixed that, I was all in on paying money for Arena. For those who don't know what the fifth card problem was, early in the beta, before Rares and Mythics, because now you open Rares and Mythics today, you don't get a fifth rare Mythic, right? Back then, in the start of the beta, you got duplicates of everything, and they all went towards the vault. Today, it's not like that anymore. You only get duplicates of the commons and uncommons. But back in the old beta, in the closed beta, and the early stages of the open beta, you got duplicates of rares and mythics. I wasn't paying $100 or $150 in gems and spending them on packs and then opening 7, 8, 9, 10 of the same mythic. Yeah, no, that's not happening. Once they fixed that and gave you gems if you opened another one, but you don't start opening gems until you got every rare of the set and every mythic of the set. So I can spend as much money as I want and not have to worry about having the fifth card problem anymore. That was number one. Number two was the friends list, but that's coming. It's in development. But they need to fix the memory leak, because restarting Arena is just absurd. Like, that is so bad. And what makes it worse is that it's not an open beta anymore. It's a released game. You're having all these problems with a release game. Come on. I can deal with not having a friends list or a chat box or direct challenge with my friends or whatever. I can deal with that. What I can't deal with is, I understand the frustration. I can't imagine what the frustration is for the full-time streamers like Ali Antrazi, Jeff Hooglin, and Jim Davis, and all those that stream 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and have to restart their client every 2 hours. That's patently absurd.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a problem that's been here persisting the whole time. I think it's just kind of like sprung up in the...
This has been a problem for the last month and a half. It was before they went live with the release.
But relatively recent and new, which is strange. It's like, it's not server related because like they release and have more people on it, because like you said, the problem started before the release, and it's correct. It just seems strange that it's a new problem that's not been foreseen or like not tested. So that's strange to me as well. Finish the sentence. It's a good day when
I get to play Magic.
Yeah, nice. Me too.
Like I don't. So if I'm streaming it, it doesn't matter if I am or not. But the big deal is it's great when I get to. And the thing was, like, so I didn't talk about this beforehand, but I started to do a podcast. I stopped doing it because like I didn't have any following, and I wasn't on the MTG social group or none of that. So I stopped doing it. But my first couple episodes, I ranted about how the new changes to the Mythic Championship and the arena, the stepping stones to get to MPL and all that, how it was virtually impossible for me to make it to Mythic with what my time constraints were. And not even two to 4 weeks after I did that cast, I hit Mythic. And I said to myself that there was no possible way that I was ever going to make it. I stopped at Platinum, and that was it. Because I just wanted the two, because at Platinum on, you get two cosmetic cards.
Yeah,
Gold and below, you only get one. So I get to Platinum and just stop caring about laddering, and I would just either I would do all the events, not drafting, but I would do all the events, the constructed event and traditional and all that. But hitting Mythic was insane, and not a big accomplishment for a lot of Magic players, but I never thought that I could do it. And the fact that I did is what catapulted me to doing what I do now.
Perfect.
And but it's a good day again when I get to play Magic.
Top 1200 is not easy. That's a feat. There's a lot of people in the world and a lot of people playing Magic. So good on you. What archetype would you like to see buffed in the next set?
So MTG is all about is cyclical. All right. It's kind of like similar to professional sports where when I was growing up, the NBA was all Eastern Conference was the powerhouse. Nowadays, it's the Western Conference. Likewise, the big mana strategies are huge right now. They're big, right? And aggro was the forefront about a season or two ago. So while everyone's complaining about how bad Field of the Dead and Golos are and Oko, I'm playing aggro and happy with it. And I used to play Golos and Field and all those cards too. And I know how busted they are, but I don't just play one deck and that's it. I like to play. Arena also allows me to play whatever I want. So, but what I would like to see is not so much a specific archetype buffed. What I want to see, or what I would like to see, is MTG go back to, well, not go back, but have multiple decks that are viable. The greatest, you talk to any of the major players of today and yesteryear, they'll tell you that the greatest sets or the greatest standards of all time were the ones that basically you weren't hindered by specific cards. For example, in every Ravnica set except this one, every Ravnica standard format, the Innistrad formats, and the Time Spiral Lorwyn before Fairies, all those sets or all those standard formats were great because not every archetype was busted. Each had their own powers and each all had their own answers. So what I'm trying to say is that back then, those standard formats had 8, 10, as close to 12 to 15 decks that were viable. Any of them can win a tournament. Today, in the last 3 years, you have 3 or 4. And the caveat on the standard format of today, I think this past year, if not year and a half, has been one of the worst for Magic in a while. Not even when Eldritch Moon and all those standard cards got banned. I think it's worse now than it was back then. But what's what's crazy is that back then, about a year and a half ago, you had people complaining about how good mono red aggro was, how black red aggro was great, and there were no other decks. We want, at the very least, a rock, paper, scissors format. Well, guess what? We have that right now, and everybody's upset.
Yeah.
So the MTG community needs to decide what they want. It's either you want a rock, paper, scissors format, or you want a format where you have like 8-10 decks viable. Even old standard formats, as I said, the Odyssey and Onslaught block formats, those had minimum 6 to 8 decks that were viable. And I can name them: Mono Black, Blue Green Madness, Psychotog, Burning and Cunning Wake, Green White Aggro, Green Red Aggro. I used to play that format. And those decks, all of them, were viable. None of them were overpowered. Maybe Upheaval was a little absurd, but you could still beat it. So today it's, you have to either play aggro, you either have to play mid-range, or you have to play field.
Yeah.
Which, even at the worst, it is not the end of the world, because you have 3 decks that you can choose from. In reality, you could pretty much play aggro deck that has Embercleave in it, Golos or field in the same deck, and Oko.
Yeah.
It's a little bit small, but not as bad as, say, back then in the Kaladesh Amonkhet block, where you had 1 to 2 decks that were actually good, and the rest of them were just not powered enough. So just up the answers in power and make them all balanced. I don't really care if it's aggro or control or mid-range or combo or whatnot. I just want to see all of them viable. I don't really care where it comes from.
Yeah, just to broaden the playing field, right? So it's not as set in stone always. It's not just going to be the 3 decks, and people aren't going to want to kill themselves when they keep running into that deck over and over, right?
Correct.
Tell us about the most memorable experience of your career so far. This could be online, offline, et cetera, et cetera.
I thought it was going to be one of those where I top 10 or top 16 of regionals. Back then, regionals was standard. It's not like it is today where it's modern. And regionals back then was, it was one tournament for a whole region. So for the Midwest region, you went to Pastimes, and that was this encompassing of like 8 to 9 states. Nowadays, you have a lot more to choose from. So I don't know if it's that, or, and I know this sounds cliche, but hitting Mythic is kind of like a big deal. To me, it's a big deal because, I've played in a lot of lighter games. I used to play League like crazy, never hit over gold, never, like, none of that, right? So when I hear, when I hit Mythic, it was kind of like I'm at the top of the ladder, and I've never been at the top of a ladder of any game. I used to be, I've been competitive in pretty much every game that I played. So if it's chess, I used to play tournaments for that. If I was playing on Super Nintendo, playing all the Mortal Kombat games on competitive, went to tournaments for that. I have a plaque in my dad's garage somewhere where I made the finals of that, or won one. And, so for Magic though, I don't think there's a single, like, hitting Mythic is probably the single most memorable, in the sense that, or not say most memorable, it's the most
gratifying.
It's it's the biggest one, but the most memorable is top 16 that regionals, because and I'll give you some context. So when I was testing for that tournament, I already knew what deck I was going to play about the moment that the set released for Skull Clamp was, I already knew what deck I was playing. I was playing a green-black rock. Obviously, everybody's playing Skull Clamp. So, and then I was testing for it. I went to F&M's. I had a team. Well, it wasn't like we weren't like a team or anything, but we had like a group of us that in the region that was, or at the store that we always had. And we went to the house, and I still talk to him, actually. He doesn't play Magic anymore, but we tested for that tournament like crazy, or for the regionals, because we knew it was coming. And but I just could not get the deck to beat Affinity or Goblins back then. So after about a month and a half of testing, I said, I can't beat these no matter what cards I play. So I'm going to scrap it. And I scrapped it. And they're like, well, what are you going to play? I guess I'm going to play goblins because I don't want to play affinity. So my friend's trying to teach me how to play goblins. And then I was like, I can't make this work. It's too intricate. I can't do this. About 2 weeks before the regional tournament, I saw Zvi top 8 or win a tournament with Tooth and Nail. So I said, I'm gonna play this. And I got all the cards for it and I tested with it. And I was like, all I want to do is test against Affinity and test against goblins. And so we did that. I changed some stuff around. Zvi's deck ran talismans. I ran chromatic spheres. And the whole point of the chromatic spheres against talismans was that I want to draw my Tron lands and I want to hit turn 3 Tron naturally every time. I don't care how I get there. I'm going to get there. And had I not punted round 6, I would have top 8'd that tournament. But in round 6, I was round 7, excuse me. I was 6-0. I faced goblins. It's game 3. I'm on the play. I turn 3 Tron. I turn 4 Mind Slaver him, and I missed sweeping his board and leaving him with no cards in hand. Because I missed that he had Goblin Sharpshooter on the battlefield. And I was able to, if I used Skirt Prospector and a bunch of other stuff, I can basically sweep his board and whatnot. But I lost to goblins and I lost to Affinity. I went 9-2 in that tournament. I placed 10th out of 670 some people or something crazy like that.
So would you say that's maybe one of your most embarrassing misplays?
No, I if you go to my Twitch, you'll see some embarrassing misplays on there. So when my friends were watching, they're like, "How did you miss that?" I was like, honestly, there were so many goblins on the battlefield. I'm tired, man. I don't want to. It was all or none, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and after that tournament, SCG was a thing back then, and an article was written, and my name was actually in an article where he faced me as a green-black. I don't remember his name, but I remember crushing him. He was upset. He was like, "Oh, I had to play against Tooth and Nail." So
nice. What mistake or misplay do you see other players in Arena making?
So I don't think it's specific. It's more of a the one thing that transitions you from being a beginner or a seasoned FNM player or whatever from that to being a decent player is that you don't just just go on autopilot. I'm guilty of this because I just want to get games done and I want to keep, playing as many decks as I can. But the thing that will separate you is you don't have to take your time on every turn, but you want to know what your in and outs are of your deck. You want to know what you're going to draw. You want to know your ins and outs of everything. Mm-hmm. So you should know, go in. Okay. At the end of if there's nothing else from that, it's, you have to have a game plan before you even sit down and play your first land. Yeah. Right. You want to have your own game plan. And if that means that, and to give you an example, Golos Field, if I know I am against something that plays blue-black, games 2 and 3, I already know I'm keeping slower hands with Field in my hand so I don't get Unmoored Ego'd out. I'm playing Unmoored Ego on turn 1. It's going to happen. Or I'm going to play Unmoored Ego so I don't lose my fields. On turn 1, or in game 1, if I don't see Grazer, Once Upon a Time, or Growth Spiral and be able to cast them, I'm probably mulliganing this hand. Mm-hmm. Unless I know I'm against a non-aggro deck. You're just not going to do very well if you don't know or don't have a plan for specific spots when you're like, man, what do I do here?
Yeah, it's not just about knowing your own deck. You need to know and understand the whole meta and how that isn't going to interact with your deck, right?
Correct. And also, just watching streamers and listening to podcasts and all that. Like, for example, the GAM podcast ran by Brian Gottlieb and Jerry Thompson. They talked about this specific thing on one of their casts where you should at least play all the tier 1 decks, if nothing else, because you want to know how they play. You want to be on the Golo side and the non-Golo side, so you know what their outs are. And if you don't, you need to find out, because if you don't, then you're not going to know what their game plan is against you, and vice versa.
Yeah, cool. What's your favorite game mode? I know Brawl and Historic aren't out yet, but
It's standard.
Just standard ranked, yeah.
Now,
are you playing best of 1 or best of 3?
Oh no, best of 3. Best of 1 is not Magic. Kappa. It's okay. So best of 1, I understand why it's there. Best of 1 is for people like me, where we don't have a lot of time during the week, especially where it's like, I want to play 5 games or 5 matches, and I don't have enough time to play 5 legit matches of Magic, where it's like, if 5 matches can take anywhere, best of 3
hours,
between an hour and a half to 2 hours. Whereas I can play 5 best of 1 games and have, be done in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I understand why it's there. Actually, the best game mode was the standard event where WotC banned like 15, 20 cards.
I remember
that format was awesome. There were some cards that were a little questionable why they didn't ban those, but the sheer idea of basically saying, okay, all the tier 1 decks are all banned.
Yeah.
Now brew.
Which is a lot more fun.
Oh yeah. It's a brewer's paradise in new formats. And the treasure chest one was kind of cool too. But those, I think, are the most fun. I don't like Brawl. I understand that it's kind of like Commander or EDH for those that have been around for a while. But EDH Commander is where I want to be. I understand that you want to have Brawl was for if you can't be in Historic and you want something to do with your cards on Arena and you don't want to just play Standard or you don't want to just draft. I understand that, and I'll play it, but that's not my favorite. And I wouldn't do that in paper.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, I just had like one of everything. Then obviously I'll build a deck, I guess.
So we have an upcoming ban next week. What cards do you think are going to be banned? I know a lot of people are saying Field of the Dead.
Oh my God. I did not think that this was going to come up, to be honest. But all right. So bans. Do I think any cards should be banned? No. I come from a time where if you banned a card,
it better be good.
It better be there better be a I hope I can I'm not gonna swear.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So there better be a damn good reason why you're banning this card. So for example, like I said, I've been around since the dark. All right. I have seen Combo Winter, Necro Summer, Eldrazi Spring, everything. All right. From Vintage, Legacy, Standard, Modern, Extended, RIP Extended. Those prices were absurd. But Field of the Dead is not Memory Jar. Field of the Dead is not Tolarian Academy. It is not Valakut. It is not Valakut was never banned, but Field of the Dead is not Dream Halls. It's not Fluctuator. It's not Windfall. It's not Time Spiral. It's not Jace. It's not Stoneforge Mystic. It's not any of those cards. Not even Aetherworks Marvel or Rogue Refiner, which I think was kind of absurd. But it's not Ferostodon, which I think got banned too soon. It's not any of those cards. And the fact that they would even think about banning Field of the Dead, I understand why it's coming up. And that's the only card that I think would possibly go. because it's very, very difficult to interact with.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the 3 cards that can interact with it are very, very bad. Assassin's Trophy is just not good. It forces you to play green black.
And you're ramping them.
Correct. And Casualties of War cost too much. And Bedeck Bedazzle is just terrible. Because there's not a lot of aggro. So the Bedeck part is just not that great.
Yeah.
And Bedazzle, it costs too much. Granted, it's an instant, but it's just not that good. Do I think any card should be banned right now? No. I think the community should, ride this one out because there's more than just one deck viable. But I do acknowledge that field is a problem. And if it is banned, and a side note to this, or an addition, so on Twitter, there were a few pros that were going crazy about how, like, what should happen, should it be banned, blah, blah, blah. Now, Wizards set a precedence last season when WotC unbanned Frostodon. And the reason why I think that was historically insane is because Wizards has never unbanned a card in Standard before, ever. Frostodon was the first one. That's 20 years of Magic history. No Standard card that has ever been banned has ever been unbanned.
Yeah.
Therefore, they considered it. This means that if Field does get banned, they can do what they did in the Blue-Black Fairies age, and they can instill or inject cards into the format that otherwise weren't in the format. So Volcanic Fallout and Great Stable Stag were injected into the format to combat those cards, and it didn't matter. But WotC having that option and no one complained about it, I think so. In other words, you can ban Field of the Dead right now or on the 21st when it comes.
Fix it in the next set.
And then next set, which is Theros, you can inject cards into the format and then see how the format shakes out, and then unban Field and then see how it does. And then if it's a problem, you can just reban it. I think people are getting crazy about we don't want to unban and ban and unban and unban and reban. Well, they've done it in Modern, and no one really complained about – well, the only card that they really complained about was Golgari Grave Troll, where it's like, oh, you unbanned it. Let's try this out. I don't think that lasted 6 months, and then they rebanned the card.
Yeah.
So,
and the Rosodon, or that red dino, I don't know its name. It cycled out.
Rampaging Frostodon.
Yeah,
Rampaging Frostodon.
It cycled out as soon as it was unbanned, basically. Anyways, right? We only had a few weeks.
We had it for a month.
A month, yeah.
And it wreaked havoc on Golos Fields.
Nice. What do we have now? We've got Ravenous Ravens or something. Revengeful Ravens. What is that card called?
That card's so bad, but yeah. Ravens Revenge or
Ravens Revenge
of the Ravens or that's whatever, yeah.
So who do you follow within the MTG community? I know you've thrown out a few names here, but I want to get
oh my goodness,
kind of like a list for them so everybody else can follow them as well, right?
All right. So I guess I'll go by
top 5.
Okay. So yeah, well, so the top 5, I guess. So top 5 pros that I follow is Martin Juza, Autumn Burchett, and oh boy, those are really the only 2 that I professionals that I really follow.
Yeah. What about podcasts or other information that you're intaking?
So in the community, that's not just specifically pros or MPL, like Nelson. I guess Brad Nelson and Huey are a couple others, but in the community abroad, I follow the GAM podcast, which is comprised of Brian Gottlieb and Jerry Thompson. The Think Twice podcast, which is hosted with Ollie Antrazi and Justin Parnell. And then obviously Goldfish, MTG Goldfish with Saffron Olive and Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And Chaz was back also. That was, and I hadn't heard from Chaz in like 5 years. And then streamers is I support Jim Davis, Ali Antrazi, Autumn Burchett, Corey Baumeister, and this one's not a well-known or big streamer. He's sort of small. The Nerdy Steve. He was part of the the Ali Antrazi stream.
Cool.
So he was a supporter or a follower. So
yeah. What are your current goals in regards to Magic the Gathering and your content creation?
Unfortunately, the goals have been put in the back seat due to my hiatus coming here soon. But when I return, I want to maintain the top 1,200 on Mythic and then actually queue for an MCQ. The thing about MTG is I don't think the satisfaction is with pro play anymore. It's not that I don't think that if that's your goal, then being on top of the world like Brian Braun-Duin or Javier Dominguez or any of those that are world champions and you want to be on top of the world, have bragging rights for the year, by all means go for it, man. Like I wish I would do that.
Good luck.
But that's not my goal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's a commitment. Like you have to be 100% all in.
Yeah.
My goals are not in tune with being a pro player in the sense of it. I think the future is in the esports. So I want to be in content creation and I want to be but I also want to be relevant in the sense that, I understand that, you want to maintain your rank and you want to maintain the Mythic and all that and still be decent or relevant. But at the same time, views and subs and donations and being famous, quote unquote, for lack of better expression, is where you want to be.
Profitable.
Recognized. Well, not profitable, recognized.
Okay. Right.
So the profits, like I said, right now, it doesn't matter. And even then, like I do this, I play, so my goals, let me just answer the question. The goals are to be relevant, right? And be entertaining. That's the goal. If it's and to stay Mythic, like that's the only thing I care about, right? If I don't make Mythic, there's obviously no reason to watch me because it's kind of like, well, I can go and, take in the pros or take in the main streamers that are, because all of them, right? They're all mythic level players. And when they're not streaming, they're going to make Mythic, right? Because they're just that good. Yeah. And that's how you have to stay relevant. But the profit part, that doesn't matter to me. No. Because this is a hobby. I didn't start playing Magic to be, financially relevant in the sense that, yeah, man, I made a lot of money out of this. If you really wanted to be profitable or whatnot, you would just play the stock market or be a hedge fund manager like Johnny Magic and just top 32 pro tours all the time on free invites. That's how good that guy is. But yeah, I'd rather be relevant and staying on Mythic and just my content creation is what I care about more. And all the people that are in it are the ones that I support. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be attempting this. So like Ali Antrazi and Hoogland and Jim Davis and Frank Lepore are all the ones that are like huge into streaming and they started it first, or the ones that are the main ones that made it. And that's where I think is the big thing. And also, not to go on a huge tangent or soapboxing on this, but I used to watch a lot of League of Legends streamers, and we all know that League of Legends is more profitable in the sense of being a pro there than it is for Magic, even with your $75,000 a year. And even then, your big streamers like Solar Renekton Only and Wings of Death and blah, 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 all those streamers will take streaming over being a pro any day of the week because it's better for them. But if being a pro is what you want to do, I support you and I like, dude, go do it because I wanted to be just like that. And that was back then before they had, you know, all the stuff that they have now, where it's like, man, I made $10,000 this year. I broke even. Go listen to some of the stuff that talked about like Owen Turnwald and all those that used to talk about how like, man, I'm a platinum level pro and I broke even. Yeah. And these are the best players in the world, like bar none. And they're not
barely breaking even.
Yeah. So
cool. That's wicked. So what obstacles other than your tour are kind of keeping you from reaching those goals? Like it could be
being full time.
Yeah, just like the time restraint.
Full time. Yeah, man. Like I'm not. My family is not what's keeping it. It's being a full time leader and being a full time soldier. That's what's keeping it. It's not that, and it's not that like without it, I would not be the person I am now. Yeah. But and it's about being humble and it's about being professional and ethical and all that. In reality, the obstacle is having the time. It's not because I'm full time. I didn't mean it in the sense that I'm full time. This job sucks. It's more of those are more of my obligations are to making sure that my family doesn't suffer, and in that I have a full time job. Yeah, well, not a full time career, I should say.
Yeah, cool. So how can we follow you along your journey? I know you're going to be taking off here for a while, but maybe we could all get on your accounts before you leave, and then we're all subscribed, and then when we come back, we can really make a big splash.
Sure. So I don't take in subscribers or donations because I thought it was very unethical and unprofessional for me to do so when I was leaving. Okay. So I'm only taking in followers on the Twitch, and you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/JohnRamosMTG, all lowercase. And my Twitter is at Azrael the Great, capital A1. So capital AZRAELTHEGREAT, and then the number 1.
Okay, we'll get that on screen.
Yeah, well, and then and then if you just let me check real fast on my Facebook here. I just want to be sure that it's the same. I don't have a Facebook made for specifically my my contents, but yeah, if you just search up just John Ramos or John Ramos 3, you'll find me there. I'm on Instagram, but I don't use it that much. So I prefer to be on Twitter. Twitter's for the content creation as well as Twitch. And then my Facebook and like my Instagram and my Snapchat and all that are all for family oriented stuff. So
cool beans. Well, good luck on your tour. Obviously, thanks for stopping in. Really appreciate that. And,
thank you. This was super fun. I didn't even realize how fast this went. I was like, look, I'm like, man, we're already at the hard questions, the one that are all about the big community stuff. So.
Cool. So when you get back, definitely reach out to me, and we have to do this again, big time. I want to hear all about it, right?